As fall deepened, turning the leaves to shades of gold and crimson, Phantom's Hollow took on an almost mystical appearance. The fog that rolled in with the evening tides seemed to carry with it whispers of ancient times, and the patrons of the Hollow seemed more restless, more vibrant with their otherworldly energies. One evening, as I was preparing the bar for the night's patrons, Vincent approached me unusually gravely. "Tonight is the Night of Mists," he explained, his voice low and serious. "It's a rare event where the mists from the realm of Faerie spill into our world. It can be disorienting. The Fae may visit, but they are not always the most straightforward guests." As he spoke, a cool mist seeped through the cracks and crevices of the bar, swirling around the ankles of the early arrivals and creating an ethereal atmosphere that seemed to pulse with hidden life. The light dimmed, the air cooled, and the very atmosphere of the Hollow shifted. The first of the Fae arrived shortly thereafter. They were stunningly beautiful, with features sharp as cut glass and eyes that shimmered with mischief and ancient knowledge. They moved gracefully, their laughter tinkling like bells, and their presence made the air sparkle. "Welcome," I greeted them, trying to conceal my awe and nervousness. "What can I serve you this evening?" One of the Fae, a slender figure with hair that shifted in color from silver to blue, smiled at me, her gaze penetrating. "Something as enchanting as the night itself, bartender. Surprise us." Challenged by her request, I took a deep breath and reached for ingredients that echoed the mystical qualities of the evening. I mixed a drink with elderflower and moonflower nectar, a dash of silver dust, and a splash of gin distilled with the essence of Twilight. I finished it with a twist of lemon peel, curling like the spiral patterns of ancient carvings. As I presented the drinks, the Fae applauded lightly, their eyes alight with delight. "Exquisitely done, human," the silver-haired Fae commended, her voice musical and warm. Throughout the night, as the mists thickened, more Fae and other creatures slipped through the veils, each drawn to the Hollow by the promise of refuge and revelry. The bar became a melting pot of tales and laughter, where the boundaries between worlds seemed to blur into insignificance. However, as the night progressed, a tension began to build. A dispute arose between a Fae lord and a shadow spirit over an ancient grudge, their voices raising in a crescendo that threatened to shatter the night's peace. Remembering Vincent's earlier advice and the lessons of past nights, I intervened carefully, offering a mediation with a drink I crafted specifically to soothe tempers and evoke nostalgia for times of old peace. The drink, a blend of calming lavender, honey for sweetness to temper bitterness, and a touch of vermouth for complexity, seemed to do the trick. The feuding parties drank, their eyes closed in reflection, and the tension dissipated slowly. As dawn approached and the mists began to recede, the creatures of the night returned to their realms, leaving behind echoes of their laughter and whispers in the fog. Vincent clapped me on the shoulder, a look of proud relief on his face. "Well handled, Cora. You have a knack for this, more than you know." Exhausted but exhilarated, I locked up the bar and walked home as the first light of dawn cut through the fading mists. The world of Phantom's Hollow was teaching me more than I could have imagined, about magic, about conflict resolution, and about myself. The Night of Mists had shown me that even in the most fantastical settings, the heart of hospitality and peacekeeping remained the same. I was learning to navigate these waters, and with each passing night, I felt more at home in the shadows and the light alike. As the seasons shifted towards the chill of approaching winter, the tales whispered in the shadows of Phantom's Hollow seemed to grow darker, richer, entwined with the frost that began to etch the windows. It was during one of these crisp nights that Vincent approached me with an unusual seriousness in his eyes. "Cora, tonight you will be entrusted with something very old and very important," he said, his voice hushed as he pulled a small, intricately carved box from beneath the bar. "This is the legacy key. It opens a door not just to a place, but to a time when the first pact between our realms was sealed. Tonight, it will be used again." I took the box carefully, feeling the weight of history in my hands. "Why me?" I whispered, overwhelmed by the significance of what I was holding. Vincent smiled, a wistful expression crossing his features. "Because, Cora, you are not just serving drinks. You are serving bridges. Between worlds, between beings, between the past and the present. You've shown you can handle that." The night unfolded with an air of expectancy. The regulars seemed to sense that something unusual was afoot, their conversations low and speculative. At the stroke of midnight, a hush fell over the bar as the door swung open to admit a figure cloaked in midnight blue, their face obscured by a hood. The figure approached the bar, their steps deliberate and soundless. "I am here for the legacy key," they announced, their voice echoing with a timbre that seemed to resonate with the very stones of the hollow. I handed them the box, my hands steady despite the pounding of my heart. The figure lifted the lid, revealing a key made of a material that shimmered with an inner light. They turned to the room, raising the key for all to see. "Tonight, we renew the pact made centuries ago to ensure peace and mutual protection between our worlds," the figure declared. The room remained silent, every patron fixed on the scene unfolding before them. The figure moved to a corner of the bar that I had always thought was just an old storeroom. They inserted the key into a seemingly blank wall, and as they turned it, the air shimmered, and a door appeared, glowing with a soft, inviting light. The door opened, and for a moment, we glimpsed another world. Vibrant, alive with colors that didn't exist in our spectrum, scents that filled the air with the promise of spring. The figure stepped through the door, turning to address the room one last time. "Keep the peace. Honor the pact," they said, before disappearing, the door closing behind them and vanishing as if it had never been. The room erupted in murmured conversations, the patrons animated with the significance of what they had just witnessed. Vincent placed a hand on my shoulder, his expression one of pride and relief. "Well done, Cora. Tonight you were part of something bigger than all of us." As I cleaned up after closing, my mind replayed the night's events. I had always known Phantom's Hollow was unique, but only now was I beginning to understand the depth of its mysteries and its role as a guardian of gates, not just between realms but between times. Walking home as the first light of dawn tinged the sky, I felt a new connection to the bar and its legacy. I was no longer just a bartender, I was a keeper of keys, a guardian of gates, entrusted with secrets that stretched back through the ages. And I was ready to embrace whatever came next, armed with the knowledge and courage that Phantom's Hollow had given me. In the weeks following the night of the legacy key, Phantom's Hollow seemed to thrum with a palpable energy, as if the very walls were alive with the echoes of the ancient pact that had been renewed. The regular patrons regarded me with a new respect, whispering among themselves about the bartender who had touched the artifacts of legend. One particularly foggy evening, as I polished the glasses and set up the bar, Vincent approached me with a look of contemplation. "Cora, it's time you learned more about the history of the Hollow. There are things beneath the surface that might help you understand your role here better." He led me to a small, secluded room at the back of the bar that I had always assumed was just for storage. Inside, the walls were lined with old, leather-bound books and artifacts that shimmered with residual magic. "This is the archive of the Hollow," Vincent explained. "Every bartender who has taken up the mantle has contributed to this collection, recording their experiences and the events that have shaped this place." As I ran my fingers over the spines of the books, a sense of awe washed over me. Each book was a repository of knowledge, a witness to centuries of hidden history. Vincent pulled down a particularly worn volume. "Start here," he said, handing it to me. The first keeper of the Hollow kept this journal, and it details the original pact and the early days of our establishment. That night, after the last patron had left and the Hollow was quiet, I sat down with the journal. The handwriting was elegant but faded, the pages brittle with age. As I read, the voice of the first keeper seemed to rise from the pages, telling tales of a time when the boundaries between worlds were much more volatile, and the need for a place like Phantom's Hollow was dire. The journal spoke of alliances forged in the shadows, of conflicts that threatened to spill over into the mortal realm, and of the profound responsibility of maintaining balance. It also spoke of the legacy key, crafted as a symbol of trust between the realms, and a safeguard against the chaos that would ensue should the pact ever be broken. Absorbed in the journal, I lost track of time, each page drawing me deeper into the lore and legacy of the bar I had come to love. It wasn't just a place, it was a sanctuary that had stood the test of time, a bridge between not just worlds, but also past and present. The next evening, as patrons filled the hollow, I felt a deeper connection to each of them, understanding now the stakes of the unspoken trust they placed in this sanctuary. My conversations were richer, my interactions more meaningful, as I saw not just the faces of the regulars, but the weight of the history they carried. Later that night, as Vincent and I closed up, I shared my thoughts with him. I never realized how deep the roots of the hollow go, I confessed, a mix of reverence and responsibility filling my voice. Vincent nodded, a smile tinged with nostalgia gracing his features. It's more than a bar, Cora. It's a legacy, and now you're a part of it. You're not just serving drinks, you're keeping history alive, ensuring the stories and the spirits have a place to coexist peacefully. As I walked home under the starlit sky, the whispers of the past seemed to mingle with the rustling leaves, and I knew that my journey at Phantom's Hollow was just beginning. I was not only a keeper of keys, but a guardian of stories, a steward of a legacy that bridged the gap between the seen and the unseen. As the leaves turned from gold to the deep, rich hues of late fall, an air of unease pervaded Phantom's Hollow. The patrons spoke in hushed tones, their eyes flicking nervously to the windows, where the wind howled a haunting melody. It seemed that the renewal of the ancient pact had stirred something in the shadows that was now slowly making its presence felt. One evening, Vincent pulled me aside, his face etched with concern. Cora, something is brewing beyond the veil. The spirit winds are restless, and I fear a storm is coming, a storm that is not of this world but of the realms beyond. We need to prepare. His words sent a chill down my spine, but I nodded, ready to face whatever challenge. What do we need to do? We need to fortify the Hollow's protection, strengthen the wards, and ensure that nothing can breach our sanctuary, Vincent instructed. He handed me a small, intricately carved stone. This is a ward stone. I need you to place it in the four corners of the hollow. It will reinforce our defenses. As I set about placing the ward stones, the atmosphere in the bar grew tense. The patrons watched silently, their usual merriment subdued by the gravity of our actions. Once the stones were in place, Vincent chanted in an ancient tongue, his voice rising and falling with the cadence of the spell. Suddenly, the wind outside intensified, howling like a wild beast at the gates. The windows rattled, and a flicker of shadows danced at the room's edges. I felt a surge of fear and determination. This was my test, not just of my ability to serve drinks, but to protect the haven that had become my second home. The air inside the bar thickened, charged with energy as Vincent's chanting reached a crescendo. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the wind ceased, the shadows dissipated, and a profound silence fell over Phantom's Hollow. Vincent ceased chanting, his gaze sweeping the room, assessing the effectiveness of our protections. "We're secure," he finally said, his voice a whisper in the stillness. "For now." The patrons slowly relaxed, their conversations resuming, though the laughter was more subdued than before. I moved through the bar, reassured by the normalcy of my duties, but vigilant for any sign of lingering shadows. As the night wore on, a sense of camaraderie built among those within the hollow. They had weathered the unseen storm together, and there was a feeling of collective relief and bonding. I served drinks, shared smiles, and felt more connected to the community of the hollow than ever before. Later, as we were closing, Vincent put a hand on my shoulder. "You did well tonight, Cora. Your actions helped protect not just the physical space of the hollow, but also the spirits and stories that dwell within. You're truly becoming the heart of this place." Walking home under a clear, star-filled sky, I reflected on the night's events. The danger had been real, and the fear palpable, but we had faced it together. Phantom's Hollow was more than just a bar. It was a beacon in the dark, where different worlds met and mingled safely, and I was its guardian, a role I now embraced with all my heart. The nights following the unseen storm were calm, but the air inside Phantom's Hollow remained charged with a silent vigilance. Patrons spoke in reverent tones about the night we fortified the bar against unseen forces, and I found myself increasingly regarded not just as a bartender but as a key guardian of our mystical enclave. One chilly evening, as the wind whispered tales of winter's approach, a new figure stepped through the doors of the hollow. He was an older man, his hair a tangle of white waves, his eyes a clear, piercing blue that seemed to see right through the ordinary facade into the deeper truths of the world. He carried an air of quiet authority and an undercurrent of raw power. Vincent nodded to me subtly as the man approached the bar. "Cora, this is Elias. He's an ally and an old friend of the Hollow. He might have some insight into the recent disturbances." I greeted him with a respectful nod. "Welcome to Phantom's Hollow, Elias. What can I get for you?" "A touch of warmth on a cold night," he replied, his voice deep and resonant, like the distant call of the ocean. I prepared a hot toddy with a hint of cinnamon and star anise and placed it before him. As he wrapped his hands around the warm glass, he studied me with an evaluative glance. "Vincent tells me you've taken to the guardianship of the Hollow quite naturally," Elias said, his tone both approving and curious. "It's rare to find someone so attuned to the needs of this place." I felt a flush of pride, but also a weight of responsibility. "I'm still learning, but I'm committed to keeping this place safe." Elias nodded, sipping his drink thoughtfully. "The Hollow isn't just a bar. It's a crossroads of energies, a focal point for many threads of power. The storm you witnessed was a ripple from deeper undercurrents. We may need to prepare for more than just fortifying physical barriers." His words intrigued and unsettled me. "What kind of preparation do you mean?" "Spiritual, magical, and communal," Elias explained. "We need to strengthen the bonds between the patrons, reinforce the magical defenses, and deepen our understanding of the ley lines that converge here. I can help train you if you're willing." The offer was unexpected but welcome. "I would appreciate that, Elias. There's so much I don't know." Over the next few weeks, Elias became my mentor. Under his guidance, I learned to read the bar's subtle energies, understand the flow of magical currents, and communicate more effectively with the myriad beings that sought refuge within our walls. We worked together to weave stronger protections into the very fabric of the Hollow, blending ancient spells with the natural energies of the place. As my skills grew, so did my confidence. Phantom's Hollow felt less like a job and more like a calling, a crucial role in a world hidden from ordinary sight but no less real. One evening, as Elias and I reviewed a series of protective runes, he turned to me with a serious look. "You're becoming quite the guardian, Cora. How do you feel?" Looking around at the bustling bar filled with laughter and the indistinct murmur of arcane conversations, I felt a deep sense of belonging. "I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," I answered, my voice firm with newfound resolve. "Good," Elias smiled, his eyes twinkling with approval. "Because I believe the Hollow will need all the guardianship it can get. We're heading into uncharted waters, and you, Cora, will be a beacon for many." As the night drew on, I reflected on Elias's words. With each challenge, I had grown stronger and more capable. Phantom's Hollow was more than a bar. It was a sanctuary, and I was its protector. Whatever the future held, I was ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more exciting stories. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos. You can watch the previous episodes on our Phantom's Hollow playlist. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below and share your opinion. Also, consider joining the Fear Frequencies community for exclusive perks and early access to new content. Your support helps us create even more thrilling stories. And if you really enjoyed it, please consider leaving a super thanks.